Ladies and gentlemen, we are powerful beings, each of us equipped with a mind capable of shaping our reality. Yet many of us unknowingly sabotage that very gift, the brain, the control center of everything we think, feel, and do. Day by day, in subtle ways, we are eroding its capacity to perform at its best, limiting the full expression of our potential. Today, I want to share with you the silent, sneaky habits that weaken your brain, robbing you of clarity, focus, and even joy. Let's talk about patterns. Patterns of behavior, thought, and lifestyle that have become so routine, you don't even notice how they are keeping you stuck. These are not dramatic events, but micro decisions, habits that compound over time and impact the structure and function of your brain. It's like watching a glacier melt slow, almost imperceptible, but inevitable unless you intervene. So today, we're not just here to identify these damaging habits, but to bring awareness, because change only begins with awareness. I think of the brain like a muscle. What you feed it and how you train it determines its strength. But here's the truth: most people are training their brains the wrong way, overloading it with stress, distraction, and emotional residue from the past. And worse, these habits become so ingrained that they feel normal, even comfortable. But comfort isn't the same as growth, and the brain thrives in an environment of growth, adaptation, and deliberate challenges. Now imagine this: every negative habit, every poor decision, whether it's what you eat, how you think, or what you choose to ignore, is slowly killing your brain's potential to create, to learn, and to transform your life. But here's the beauty: the moment you become conscious of what's harming you, you have the power to change it. You're never stuck. Every time you step into greater awareness, you stop the cycle of decay. Your brain starts to rebuild, to rewire, to heal. It's like clearing away the mental fog and letting the light in. You start making room for focus, for inspiration, for creativity. And when the brain shifts, so does your life. Now, let me leave you with 7 key points to remember. Every thought you think leaves a fingerprint on your brain. Whether it's conscious or unconscious, each thought sends an electrical signal across neural circuits, and every time that signal repeats, it strengthens those circuits. Like water carving a path through stone over time, thoughts carve grooves into the structure of your brain. The more you think a certain way, whether it's fear, doubt, gratitude, or joy, the easier it becomes to think that way again. Eventually, the thoughts that dominate your mind become habits of mind, and those habits shape who you are. Now, imagine a negative thought: "I'm not good enough," you think it once, and the brain fires off neurons that connect to emotions like shame, frustration, and fear. Think it again tomorrow, and the signal flows along the same path, strengthening that neural connection. The more you think that way, the more it becomes your default mode. It's not just an abstract idea, it's a biological fact. Your brain is like a plastic mold that takes the shape of the most frequent mental patterns. Before you know it, the thought becomes automatic, no longer requiring your conscious attention to activate. And once it's automatic, it feels like reality, even if it's not. This is where the power and the danger lies. The brain doesn't distinguish between a thought based on real experience and one based on imagination. If you think you're in danger, your brain activates the same survival mechanisms, whether the threat is real or imagined. Fear circuits fire, stress hormones surge, and the body shifts into fight or flight mode. Repeated thoughts of worry or inadequacy program your nervous system to remain on high alert, creating tension in the body and narrowing your ability to think clearly or creatively. But the good news is that this process works both ways. Just as negative thoughts can wire the brain into patterns of anxiety or despair, positive thoughts can rewire it for peace, clarity, and strength. When you intentionally think thoughts of gratitude, joy, or possibility, the brain fires new neural connections. At first, it may feel awkward, like trying to write with your non-dominant hand. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes, because neurons that fire together wire together. Each repetition strengthens the connection, and over time, the positive thought becomes the new default. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, means you are never trapped by old thinking patterns. Even if you've spent years in self-doubt, you can change. It starts by becoming aware of your thoughts. Awareness is like shining a light into a dark room. You see what's been operating in the background without your permission. Once you notice the patterns, you can consciously interrupt them. And each time you choose a new thought, one aligned with who you want to become, you break free from the old pattern and forge a new path in your brain. It takes repetition and patience. Just as you wouldn't expect to develop a strong body after one workout, you can't expect to change your mental wiring overnight. But with consistent practice, the brain changes. Eventually, what once felt unnatural, like thinking "I am worthy" or "I am capable," becomes second nature. And when it does, your brain no longer works against you, it works for you, unlocking new levels of creativity, focus, and resilience. You become the architect of your mind, consciously shaping a brain that aligns with your highest vision of yourself. The key is to stay vigilant. Every thought matters, and every moment is an opportunity to either reinforce an old pattern or create a new one. You may not control the first thought that arises, but you can choose the next one. When you choose thoughts that empower, inspire, and elevate you, you begin a profound transformation not just in the way you think, but in the way your brain is wired. And as your brain changes, so does your life. Because the life you experience is nothing more than a reflection of the thoughts you repeatedly entertain. Stress is not just a passing emotional state, it becomes embedded in the body, altering your chemistry, your biology, and ultimately the way your brain functions. When you experience stress, your body reacts as if it's facing a life or death threat, whether that threat is real or imagined. Your heart races, your breath shortens, your muscles tighten, and stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. In small doses, this response is helpful. It keeps you alert and ready to react. But when stress becomes chronic, the same systems that were designed to protect you begin to work against you. The brain is the command center of this response. When you perceive a threat, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, signals the release of stress hormones. These chemicals surge through your body, shutting down non-essential functions like digestion and focusing all your energy on survival. This reaction made sense for our ancestors who needed to run from predators, but today most of our stress comes not from physical danger, but from deadlines, finances, relationships, and self-imposed pressure. The body, however, cannot tell the difference. To your brain, stress is stress, whether it's a missed meeting or a lion in the jungle. Over time, chronic stress alters the way your brain works. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making, focus, and rational thinking, begins to shrink, making it harder to stay calm and think clearly. Meanwhile, the amygdala becomes overactive, heightening your sensitivity to fear and making you more reactive to even minor challenges. This is why when you're stressed for long periods, life can feel overwhelming. Your brain literally starts prioritizing survival over creativity, joy, and long-term planning. But stress doesn't stay confined to the brain. Every cell in your body feels it. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, is helpful in short bursts but toxic when it stays elevated. It weakens your immune system, leaving you vulnerable to illness. It also accelerates inflammation, a silent killer that contributes to diseases ranging from heart problems to diabetes. Over time, this constant state of tension wears down your organs, tightens your muscles, and leaves you feeling physically drained, even if you've done nothing strenuous. Chronic stress depletes your energy, disrupts your sleep, and makes you more prone to headaches, fatigue, and digestive issues. Your emotional state and your physical health are intimately connected. When your mind is tense, your body follows. You may carry stress in your shoulders, your jaw, or your lower back without even realizing it. It's not uncommon for people to live in this state for years, so accustomed to the discomfort that they mistake it for normal. But normal isn't the same as healthy. The longer you stay in stress mode, the harder it becomes to break free. Your body starts to memorize that state of being, and soon you're stuck in a loop, waking up every day with the same worries, feeling the same tension, thinking the same thoughts. The danger is that over time, stress rewires your nervous system, keeping you in a perpetual fight or flight state, even when there's no real threat. It's like driving a car with the accelerator pressed down all the time. Eventually, the engine wears out. Your body becomes conditioned to stress, and even moments of peace may feel unsettling because the body has forgotten how to relax. You might feel restless or anxious when nothing is wrong because your nervous system has become addicted to the chemicals of stress. But here's the truth: you can break this cycle. Just as the brain learned to live in stress, it can learn to live in calm. When you consciously disrupt stressful thoughts and practice relaxation, the nervous system begins to reset. The prefrontal cortex regains strength and the amygdala quiets down. Your body remembers how to heal. Practices like deep breathing, meditation, or even a few moments of gratitude can lower cortisol levels and shift your brain and body out of survival mode. It may feel strange at first, but over time, you'll find that calm becomes the new normal. Your body is always listening to your mind, and every thought sends a signal that affects your chemistry. Stress isn't just in your head, it's in your cells, your organs, and your muscles. But the moment you become aware of how stress is operating within you, you gain the power to change it. Healing begins when you stop identifying with the stress and start giving your brain and body the signal that it's safe to let go. And when you do, you're not just releasing emotional tension, you're rewiring yourself for health, clarity, and strength. Sleep is not a passive state, it's a profound process of restoration and renewal. When you close your eyes at night, your brain doesn't shut down, it shifts into repair mode. During the day, your brain is in overdrive, processing information, making decisions, and dealing with emotions. But at night, when you sleep deeply, the brain finally gets the chance to cleanse itself, reset, and rebuild. Without that crucial downtime, your brain starts to struggle. The sharpness of your thoughts dulls, your emotions become harder to regulate, and the delicate balance that keeps you focused and creative begins to fall apart. I think of sleep as the brain's maintenance crew. Throughout the day, your neurons fire constantly, and by evening, the brain accumulates metabolic waste, byproducts of thinking, learning, and memory. If not cleared out, this buildup can clog the brain's pathways, impairing cognitive function. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system, a unique waste-clearing mechanism, flushes these toxins out. One of the waste products it clears is beta amyloid, a protein linked to neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. When you consistently cut your sleep short, you deny your brain this vital cleaning process, and over time, the buildup of toxins starts to impair memory, concentration, and emotional stability. But sleep does more than just clean the brain. It's also the time when your brain consolidates memories, making connections between the things you learn throughout the day. Imagine going to bed with scattered puzzle pieces and waking up with them neatly assembled. This is how your brain organizes information. It takes all the fragments of experience, knowledge, and emotion and integrates them into a coherent whole. Without adequate sleep, the puzzle remains incomplete, and you wake up feeling disoriented, struggling to retain information or make decisions. Sleep is also essential for emotional regulation. During deep sleep and REM rapid eye movement phases, the brain processes emotional experiences, helping you let go of stress and reset your mood. This is why after a good night's sleep, you feel refreshed and more resilient. But when sleep is compromised, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, becomes overactive, making you more reactive, anxious, and prone to negative thinking. Lack of sleep doesn't just leave you tired, it rewires the emotional circuitry of your brain, making it harder to cope with everyday challenges. On a biological level, sleep deprivation throws off your entire system. Cortisol levels remain elevated, signaling your body to stay in a state of alertness. This not only drains your energy, but also makes it harder to fall asleep the next night, trapping you in a vicious cycle. Over time, chronic sleep deprivation shrinks the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking and decision-making, while the amygdala gains more control, pushing you into survival mode. This imbalance affects everything from your ability to focus to your capacity for joy and creativity. Even your physical health is tied to sleep. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormones that repair tissues, strengthen the immune system, and regulate metabolism. Skimping on sleep disrupts these processes, leading to fatigue, inflammation, and weight gain. It becomes harder to fight off illness, harder to manage stress, and harder to feel good in your own body. Sleep is not just rest for the mind, it's fuel for the entire system. The challenge is that modern life often treats sleep as optional. We sacrifice it for work, entertainment, or distractions, thinking we can power through. But the brain doesn't work that way. It needs sleep like a garden needs rain. Without it, everything withers. You may feel like you're functioning on minimal sleep, but the truth is your brain is silently paying the price. Cognitive decline, emotional instability, and even long-term health risks are the costs of chronic sleep deprivation. The good news is that the brain is incredibly adaptive. Once you make sleep a priority, the repair process begins almost immediately. Neurons reconnect, memory improves, and emotional stability returns. It doesn't take long to feel the shift. After just 1 or 2 nights of deep, restorative sleep, you'll notice sharper focus, clearer thinking, and a sense of calm that feels effortless. Your brain thrives on consistency, and when you create a healthy sleep routine, it responds by unlocking higher levels of cognitive and emotional potential. So the next time you're tempted to sacrifice sleep for one more task, one more episode, or one more hour of scrolling, remember every hour of lost sleep is an hour stolen from your brain's ability to repair and grow. Sleep is not a luxury, it's a non-negotiable for a thriving mind and body. When you honor your need for rest, you allow your brain to do what it was designed to do: heal, reset, and evolve. And in that quiet stillness, the seeds of new ideas, insights, and inspiration begin to bloom. What you eat isn't just about fueling your body, it's directly linked to how your mind works. Every bite you take sends a message to your brain, affecting its chemistry, function, and long-term health. The brain may be only 2% of your body weight, but it consumes about 20% of your daily energy. And it's particular about the kind of fuel it needs. When you feed your body nutrient-rich foods, you give your brain the raw materials it requires to function at its highest level, boosting memory, concentration, emotional stability, and even creativity. But if you fill your system with processed, sugary, and nutrient-poor foods, it creates an internal environment of imbalance and fog. Your brain thrives on stability and clarity, and that starts with blood sugar. The neurons in your brain rely on glucose to fire efficiently, but this energy needs to be steady and sustained. Refined sugars and simple carbohydrates cause sharp spikes and crashes in blood sugar levels. After a sugary meal or snack, you might feel a quick burst of energy or mental clarity, but it's short-lived. When blood sugar plummets shortly after, so does your focus, mood, and cognitive function. This roller coaster leaves you feeling drained, scattered, and reactive. Over time, repeated cycles of high and low blood sugar begin to impair brain health, increasing the risk of brain fog, anxiety, and even neurodegenerative conditions. Healthy fats, on the other hand, are one of the brain's most important allies. Your brain is made up of about 60% fat, and every neuron is coated in a fatty membrane that helps signals move smoothly. Omega-3 fatty acids found in foods like salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds are critical for maintaining these membranes. They enhance communication between brain cells, support memory, and reduce inflammation. Inflammation is the silent enemy of brain function. It disrupts mental clarity and impairs emotional resilience. When you nourish your brain with healthy fats, you create a foundation for smooth cognitive function, emotional stability, and neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to adapt and grow. Vitamins and minerals are equally essential. The B vitamins, for example, play a significant role in neurotransmitter function, helping to regulate mood and energy. Magnesium helps calm the nervous system, improving sleep and reducing anxiety. Antioxidants found in colorful fruits and vegetables protect the brain from oxidative stress, which is like rust building up in your brain over time. When free radicals accumulate, they damage brain cells, leading to cognitive decline. Antioxidants neutralize these free radicals, keeping the brain sharp, youthful, and clear. Gut health is another piece of the puzzle. The gut and the brain are intimately connected through the vagus nerve, forming what's known as the gut-brain axis. About 90% of your body's serotonin, the neurotransmitter responsible for mood regulation, is produced in the gut. If your gut microbiome is out of balance due to a diet high in processed foods, it affects your mood, concentration, and overall mental well-being. This is why people with poor gut health often experience brain fog, anxiety, and depression. A diet rich in fiber, fermented foods, and prebiotics promotes a healthy gut environment, which in turn supports clear thinking and emotional balance. But nutrition isn't just about avoiding harmful foods, it's about consciously choosing to nourish yourself. When you eat with intention, you tell your brain and body that they matter. Fresh, whole foods carry life force. They're packed with energy that fuels not just your body, but your mind and spirit. Contrast that with processed foods that are stripped of nutrients and loaded with chemicals. They weigh you down physically, emotionally, and mentally. The food you eat becomes the building blocks for neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, which directly influence your mood and motivation. When you eat foods that energize and nourish, you align your biology with the best version of yourself. Caffeine and stimulants, often used to boost productivity, come with a hidden cost. They can mask exhaustion temporarily, but over time they drain the nervous system and disrupt your natural rhythms. True mental energy comes from consistent, nutrient-rich meals, not quick fixes. Water is another overlooked aspect of brain health. Even mild dehydration impairs attention, memory, and mood. The brain is over 70% water, and when it's dehydrated, it struggles to function optimally. Drinking enough water ensures that electrical signals between neurons flow smoothly, supporting mental clarity and emotional balance. Eating well is a form of self-respect, and it sets the foundation for every other aspect of life. When you fuel your brain properly, you give it the tools it needs to manage stress, process emotions, and generate new ideas. Over time, these small choices compound. Every meal is an opportunity to build a stronger, sharper, more resilient brain. Just as you wouldn't expect a high-performance car to run on low-grade fuel, you can't expect your brain to thrive on poor-quality food. It's not just about avoiding junk, it's about consciously choosing what will elevate your mind, body, and soul. Your diet shapes not only how you feel today, but how your brain functions in the years to come. You have the power to influence your mental clarity, emotional well-being, and long-term cognitive health with every bite you take. When you treat food as medicine, you align with the natural intelligence of your body and mind. And as you cultivate this awareness, the act of nourishing yourself becomes a sacred ritual, one that fuels not only your brain, but your entire being. We are wired for connection not just with others, but with ourselves, our environment, and something greater than us. Connection isn't just emotional, it's biological, a fundamental part of how the brain and body function. When we lose this sense of connection, it begins to erode our mental and physical health in profound ways. Disconnection creates isolation, not only from the people around us, but from our own inner world. And in that separation, the brain enters a state of stress and survival. Over time, this state becomes the breeding ground for anxiety, depression, and a feeling of being lost. The brain thrives in relationships and community. When we connect with others, the brain releases chemicals like oxytocin, which calms the nervous system, reduces stress, and builds trust. This sense of connection fosters safety and emotional well-being, giving the brain the resources it needs to stay flexible, creative, and resilient. But when we feel disconnected, whether through isolation, neglect, or internal withdrawal, our brain perceives it as a threat. The fight or flight response kicks in, and the amygdala becomes overactive, scanning the environment for danger even when none is present. Disconnection tells the brain that we are unsafe, and in response, it shifts us into a state of self-preservation. When disconnection becomes chronic, the brain starts to lose its ability to regulate emotions. You might feel stuck in cycles of stress, loneliness, or sadness, unable to break free. This isn't just psychological on a neurological level. Your brain rewires itself to prioritize survival over creativity, exploration, and joy. The longer you remain disconnected, the more rigid your thinking becomes. You lose the ability to see possibilities, think clearly, or feel deeply. It's like living in a fog where everything feels distant and disconnected, including yourself. Over time, this state can contribute to mental health challenges such as depression and chronic anxiety, not because of personal failure, but because the brain isn't receiving the emotional nourishment it needs to thrive. Disconnection isn't limited to relationships with others. We can become disconnected from our own bodies, emotions, and even our purpose. When we stop listening to the signals from within, like the need to rest, reflect, or feel, we create a divide between the mind and body. This divide increases stress and throws the entire nervous system out of balance. The more disconnected we become from our inner world, the more we rely on external distractions, technology, busy schedules, or material things to fill the void. But these things can't replace true connection. They create momentary relief, but in the long run, they deepen the sense of emptiness and disconnection. On a societal level, the modern world often fosters disconnection. Social media gives the illusion of connection, but it often leaves us feeling lonelier and more isolated. We scroll through curated images of other people's lives, comparing, judging, and feeling inadequate. Instead of meaningful interactions, we substitute likes and messages, further distancing ourselves from authentic connection. The brain craves real, face-to-face interaction, eye contact, and presence, things that virtual connections can't fully provide. Over time, the lack of meaningful connection depletes our mental resources, leaving us more vulnerable to stress, insecurity, and emotional numbness. But connection is always within reach. Rebuilding it starts with small moments of presence, being fully aware of your breath, listening deeply to someone without distraction, or simply acknowledging your emotions without judgment. These acts of connection, though subtle, begin to shift the brain out of survival mode and into a state of balance and openness. When we reconnect with ourselves, we start to reconnect with others more authentically. And as we cultivate these connections, the brain begins to shift from fear and protection to growth and expansion. Even reconnecting with nature has profound effects on the brain. Studies show that spending time in natural environments lowers cortisol levels, calms the nervous system, and enhances cognitive function. Nature reminds us of our place in the larger web of life. It invites us to slow down, breathe deeply, and align with rhythms that are older and wiser than our own thoughts. This reconnection brings a sense of belonging that isn't dependent on circumstances or other people. It is a return to the source of life itself. Ultimately, connection is not a luxury, it's essential to our well-being. Without it, the brain withers, trapped in patterns of stress and separation. But when we nurture connection, whether with others, with nature, or with ourselves, the brain begins to heal and grow. We become more adaptable, creative, and emotionally balanced. In connection, we remember who we are, not as isolated individuals, but as interconnected beings, part of something much greater. And from that place, we can access the inner peace and clarity that disconnection tries to steal from us. Technology offers us incredible tools, but when we become hooked on it, it comes at a cost: our focus, creativity, and mental well-being. Every time you pick up your phone, open social media, or check a notification, you are feeding the brain's need for stimulation. And here's the catch: the brain loves novelty. Each alert, ping, or scroll triggers a release of dopamine, the same neurotransmitter responsible for pleasure and reward. But this surge of dopamine is fleeting, leaving you craving the next hit. Over time, the brain becomes trapped in a loop of instant gratification, sacrificing sustained focus and deep concentration for quick bursts of stimulation. Technology pulls us into a state of fragmented attention. You may open your phone intending to check one message, but within minutes, you're scrolling through endless feeds without realizing how much time has slipped away. Each notification demands your immediate focus, pulling your attention in multiple directions. But the brain is not designed to multitask effectively. Every time you shift focus, whether from work to a text or from one app to another, your brain must reboot, recalibrate, and refocus. These constant shifts exhaust your mental energy, making it harder to engage in meaningful tasks and leaving you feeling mentally depleted. Sustained focus is a muscle, and just like any muscle, it requires consistent practice to strengthen. But when we become addicted to technology, we weaken this ability. The brain learns that it doesn't need to stay present because there's always an easy escape, a distraction just a click away. Instead of lingering in a moment of reflection or problem solving, we opt for the quick relief of checking our phones. The more we rely on these distractions, the harder it becomes to engage in activities that require deep thought, like reading, creative work, or self-reflection. In essence, we trade depth for surface-level engagement, and our cognitive abilities shrink as a result. Technology addiction doesn't just drain your mental energy, it rewires your brain. The neural pathways associated with focus and attention weaken, while those linked to instant gratification grow stronger. Over time, this rewiring can create a sense of restlessness and impatience. You might notice that you can't sit still without checking your phone, or that even in quiet moments, your mind seeks out stimulation. This is the brain's way of telling you it's become conditioned to external input. And the more dependent you become on technology to fill every empty moment, the more you lose touch with your own inner world. This constant engagement with technology also disrupts the brain's ability to enter flow states, those moments of effortless concentration where time disappears and you're fully immersed in a task. Flow states are where creativity and insight thrive, but they require uninterrupted focus. Every time you glance at your phone or switch tasks, you pull yourself out of that zone, robbing your brain of the opportunity to achieve true mental clarity. Without flow, life becomes a series of shallow tasks, leaving you feeling unfulfilled, disconnected, and mentally scattered. On a physiological level, addiction to technology keeps the brain in a state of low-level stress. Notifications, emails, and endless messages trigger the fight or flight response, flooding the body with stress hormones like cortisol. This constant activation overstimulates the nervous system, making it harder to relax and recharge. Even though scrolling through your phone may feel like a way to unwind, it often leaves you more anxious and restless. Your brain doesn't get the deep rest it needs because it's stuck in a loop of passive consumption and overstimulation. But here's the truth: the ability to focus is not lost, it's just buried under layers of distraction. With intentional effort, you can rewire your brain to reclaim your focus and mental clarity. It starts with setting boundaries with technology. Creating moments of stillness where you resist the urge to reach for your phone gives your brain the space it needs to recalibrate. When you stop feeding the addiction to constant input, the brain begins to quiet, and in that silence, you reconnect with deeper thought, creativity, and self-awareness. Breaking free from technology addiction is an act of reclaiming your power. Each time you choose presence over distraction, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with sustained attention. Over time, your brain learns to stay with a thought, engage fully in a task, and find joy in deep work. The mental fog begins to lift, and you rediscover the pleasure of being fully engaged in the present moment. Focus becomes not just a mental skill, but a gateway to a richer, more meaningful experience of life. Your brain is not a static organ, it is a dynamic, ever-evolving entity that molds itself to your habits, experiences, and intentions. The concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to change and reorganize itself, underscores a fundamental truth: what you practice shapes the structure and function of your brain. Every thought you think, every action you take, and every emotion you feel contributes to this ongoing process of adaptation. When you engage in a particular practice, whether it's a skill, a habit, or even a way of thinking, you begin to create specific neural pathways in the brain. These pathways become stronger with repetition, forming a kind of mental highway that facilitates faster and more efficient communication between neurons. Over time, as you consistently engage in these practices, your brain becomes more adept at those tasks, making them feel easier and more natural. For example, consider someone learning to play a musical instrument. Initially, the effort seems overwhelming and the brain works hard to form the necessary connections, but with regular practice, those connections strengthen and eventually the musician can play with fluidity and ease, almost as if the music flows through them. This same principle applies to every aspect of our lives. The more you practice positive thinking, the more you reinforce neural connections that promote optimism and resilience. In contrast, if you continuously engage in negative thought patterns or self-criticism, you strengthen pathways that lead to anxiety and self-doubt. The brain doesn't differentiate between productive and unproductive practices, it simply adapts to whatever you reinforce. This means that if you want to cultivate a certain mindset, skill, or behavior, it requires intentional and consistent effort to reshape those neural pathways. Additionally, the brain is incredibly responsive to the emotional context of your experiences. Emotions act as catalysts for learning and memory, anchoring experiences in our neural architecture. When you practice something with passion and enthusiasm, your brain releases neurotransmitters that enhance memory and learning. Conversely, when practice is approached with frustration or disinterest, the learning process becomes less effective and the connections formed may not hold. This is why finding joy and meaning in your practices is crucial. It transforms them from mere repetition into profound experiences of growth and evolution. Moreover, your environment plays a significant role in how your brain adapts. When you surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and support your growth, you create a fertile ground for your brain to thrive. Social interactions stimulate the release of oxytocin, promoting feelings of safety and connection, which enhances cognitive function and creativity. In contrast, environments that are toxic or devoid of support can hinder your brain's capacity to adapt positively. As you practice mindfulness or meditation, for instance, you actively reshape your brain. Mindfulness trains you to focus your attention and become aware of your thoughts without judgment. Over time, this practice enhances areas of the brain associated with attention, emotional regulation, and even compassion. The more you engage in these practices, the more you cultivate a mindset that fosters clarity, peace, and resilience, allowing you to navigate life's challenges with greater ease. But it's not just about individual practices, it's also about the narratives we tell ourselves. If you believe you are capable and worthy, you are more likely to engage in practices that align with that belief. Your brain adapts to the stories you create about yourself. Conversely, if you hold limiting beliefs, your brain will adapt to those as well, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that reinforces feelings of inadequacy and failure. Recognizing and reshaping these narratives is a powerful tool for transformation, enabling you to break free from negative cycles and cultivate a mindset of growth and possibility. Ultimately, the key to unlocking the potential of your brain lies in conscious intention and practice. The choices you make today, what you focus on, how you respond to challenges, and the beliefs you embrace will shape your brain's architecture tomorrow. By dedicating yourself to practices that align with your values and aspirations, you can consciously direct your brain's adaptation process, creating a life rich with purpose, creativity, and resilience. Your brain is a reflection of your life experiences and your choices. As you embark on this journey of transformation, remember that every moment presents an opportunity to choose practices that elevate your mind, enrich your spirit, and enhance your overall well-being. The path to growth is not always easy, but with intentional effort, you can cultivate a brain that is not only resilient but also capable of incredible change. Embrace the power of your practice and watch as your brain adapts in ways that bring your highest potential to life. So the question becomes, what kind of brain are you building each day? Are you allowing these silent killers to run your life, or will you take charge, disrupt the patterns, and become the master of your mind? The choice is yours. The brain responds to intention, and every moment is an opportunity to start fresh. If you train your brain wisely, there's no limit to what you can create. Thank you.